Hi, folks. Got an absolutely amazing guest here with me tonight. It is Nick Tenconi, who's the leader of the UKIP party. It's always a privilege to speak to him because, he's a very brave man who stands up for his beliefs. How are you, Nick?
Peace be with you, Liam. I am great, really, really great. Thank you for those kind words, and it's great for us to be chatting again. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right. Now, how's your year been? Because it's probably a sort of year since we did one of these. Do you feel like you're making progress? Are you optimistic for the future? Tell us how you feel.
It must be about a year for us, I'm thinking. And so a year ago, we were at the year mark where I was essentially coming in or has been elected as deputy leader. So May 24, we had a
Mhm.
leader who was above me called Lois, and we had the summer with the general election looming as well. You had Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe firmly in Nigel's pack, and a few people definitely knew Ben Habib, and he very well liked. No one knew who Rupert Lowe was outside of the business world, outside of football clubs.
Yes.
The general population did not know who he was. So that was, and you had Richard Tice running Reform, who
Mhm.
just is not this. It's not the Patriots' hero, shall we say? And
Mhm.
of course, there's me as deputy leader of a mainstream political party.
Mhm.
So there was an awful lot of work to do. And then the timeline goes something like this. You have, first of all, Farage, you have the leader, Lois, God bless her, who basically left because Nigel said, I'm going to run Reform. And that made me interim leader. So you've got a Reform now with Nigel at the
Mhm.
helm in high command. You've got a general election, which was disastrous for the socially conservative, patriotic, or Christian nationalist right.
Mhm.
Lois essentially leaving her post after whatever it was, 60, 70, 80 days. So there I
Mhm.
am in Trafalgar Square as interim leader, summer 2024, with Tommy back on the scene, pulling crowds because no one can pull crowds like to this point anyway, like Tommy can, thanks be to God. And there's me as interim leader of a
Mhm.
mainstream political party with a man like Nigel running Reform. So, of
Mhm.
course, as I come in and it's my chance to shine, and you understand what I mean when I say that, attracting talent, attracting
Mhm.
candidates, attracting members, attracting donors, attracting
Mhm.
media interviews, those small little items there that fall on your shoulders as leader. I've got a man like Nigel, 20 plus years my senior, with all of his experience and media sensationalism and donors and financial backing. I've got now to compete with that as a
Mhm.
Labour majority government comes in, not as Blair, not under
Mhm.
the Blair type, but under the Starmer type. So
Mhm.
my David and Goliath challenge goes from basically David and Goliath to an inverted hill, which I have to climb. Then, of course, we have my offer to Ben Habib in autumn of
Mhm.
2024. He turns me down, and that was obviously a blow. But I also, because he's very well liked, but also I knew he had something coming up, which then led into obviously the creation of the British PAC,
Yes.
which by definition, whenever someone produces in the political age we're living in, Liam, whenever someone produces one of these think tanks, it's a
Mhm.
starter to a political party. We all know that.
Yes.
So there's huge source of frustration for me, which then takes us to Tommy coming out of prison. No matter how hard I campaign for Tommy, ultimately Tommy decides not to back a horse and to
Mhm.
remain exclusively media related, which of course is completely acceptable and
Mhm.
completely understandable. That takes us to the creation of Restore Britain a year ago, give or take, in the June, I want to say it was. I don't remember exactly, which again is another sign for the
Mhm.
pundits and the commentators to understand that that's basically going to morph into a political party. Now, of course,
Mhm.
at this point, your audience should have tears in their eyes. Not that I want sympathy, but again, I need a chance. Members, candidates, donors, mainstream media circuit, I need a chance. And at the moment, I'm not really seeing one, even though I've got the UKIP banner label sort of attached to me now. I'm not really seeing one. That takes us to February of this year, where Rupert doesn't do anything with there's a lot of background detail here, but doesn't do anything with Ben Habib, God bless him, and doesn't do anything with the Tories, but creates his own party. And of course, the most prestigious seat in the political sense is the House of Commons globally. So you've got a sitting MP with all of that mainstream media attraction, financing, not to mention his own personal wealth, who's now saying, right, I'm starting my own party, who's in there, by the way, on Nigel's ticket. So at the risk of wanting to start this interview with such a depressing tone, there is that we are now at the 2-year mark where again, starting out as deputy pretty much 2 years ago, 2 years later, we are in such an incredible situation because there are no more moves to be played before the general election.
No.
So everyone who's going to come out as, let's say, X or Y has done so. Anyone who's going to back a horse or go a certain way has done so. And anyone who's going to start a political party or whatever has done so. So we are now in the most fortunate position whereby we know who all the players are on the board and we know exactly the intentionality of everyone. Ben can't do business with Nigel ever. Rupert can't do business with Nigel ever, which means that, and also, Ben Habib arguably has been usurped by Rupert, which I think is very problematic on the patriotic scene, because we all know Ben had intentions for Rupert to lead Advance or to be intimately involved in high command, which of course, again, is not unreasonable, and it's a very sensible, practical position to have. So you've now got this situation, and the timing of this interview couldn't be better. Makerfield coming up, where you're now going to have, whereas with Gorton and Denton, Reform through everything and their superstar candidate at it, as did Advance, we now have the perfect conditions. When you say, how are things going? And, how am I? I'm great. The team is brilliant. We're building Christian nationalism for the first time ever in British politics. But unfortunately, or fortunately, should I say, God isn't letting me shine just yet. We've got all these other things that we have to do first before the British public essentially come home back to their roots, back to the faith. And Makerfield, which I'm sure we're going to go on to talk about, Ben Habib has said, I'm not standing. Jacob Rees-Mogg has come out and said, right, I think the Tories should really let Reform and Restore go at this. And what a fantastic opportunity we have to watch Restore and Reform tear each other apart. And if Restore get it, great, hugely edifying. If Reform get it, again, great, hugely edifying. But if they split that patriotic vote, and if that allows for an Andy Burnham victory, Liam, at the risk of sounding conceited, again, great news for Christian nationalism, because we're building that Christian nationalist army and we're evangelizing and waking people up to the realities that British politics needs something incredibly different and faith-focused. So it doesn't matter what happens in Makerfield. We aren't standing a candidate. We have absolutely no business interfering in terms of where we're at, at the moment. But what a fantastic opportunity we have on the patriotic right to really settle the argument about whether splitting of the vote, even though we've got empirical evidence from summer 2024 where Reform and the Tories split the vote in I don't know how many seats, which gave Labour their super majority, which we all now spend our days and weeks complaining about endlessly. So we know it's real, but in a winner takes all, first past the post, go for glory system, if Restore don't win this, or if they cause any shenanigans which indicate that that's contributory towards a Burnham victory, if you see where I'm going with this mathematics, again, devastation for Britain, but fantastic news for the Christian nationalists who are saying wide-eyed, come home. We have to regroup. We need to build this Christian army, which is, of course, what we're doing under the UKIP banner.
Well, that is probably the most fantastic speech we've ever had, starting on an interview which has just summed up everything and probably taken most of my questions away. However,
sorry, mate.
That's all right. However, let's look at this by-election. Is it not selfish of Rupert Lowe in a way to put himself in that position to combat Farage? Shouldn't one of them step aside? Because you say that it's going to split the vote, which then means Andy Burnham is probably going to get in, isn't he? If they both go together.
Yeah, so let me be absolutely clear. My position is the same as it was in February when I got the news about Rupert's move. Rupert is a friend. Yes. There is no enmity whatsoever, not between Nigel, from my perspective, between myself and Nigel, myself and Rupert, and myself and Ben. None. We are of the Christian nationalist position, but we are operating, the team, under the UKIP banner. We are operating outside of the spheres that Ben, Nigel, and Rupert are operating under. Yeah. They both were where they were because of Nigel's ticket, and in the case of Rupert, it's allowed him untold access, and again at the age of 68 to have that kind of, I'm not going to use the word luck, but let's face it, like that's look at, no one knew who he was 2 years ago. No one knew who he was on the political circuit, for example, whereas everyone knew Matt Goodwin, everyone knew Ben Habib, Maya Tousi, Tommy Robinson, etc., etc. So where we're at now is, in terms of answering the question, I will say this. I think Rupert should absolutely go for gold in Makerfield. So your question is it selfish? It's selfish. It's so egocentric. It's absolutely inconceivable. And I'm going to go on to tell you why. But my position hasn't changed from Feb. So my official position is go for it, mate. Absolutely. You know, and let's face it, it's called, we all know Rupert. We've seen him in enough interviews now. I like the moxie. It's called grab your nuts and go for gold. Mate, absolutely, 100% go for it. But if you get this wrong, you have got some serious explaining to do. And I'll tell you for why. And this is my other position in relation to why I would 100% say, because I understand your question, selfish, yeah, very egocentric, very brazen. But here's the thing. Nigel, Kemi, and Rupert should all be sat in a room, all of them right now, and be going, right, Kemi, let me take this, like from Rupert's perspective, let me take this. And obviously Gorton and Denton, like we weren't started up yet. It was too early, etc. The three of them, Liam, work it out. Work it out. Whilst we build the Christian army, work it out and keep doing that. When there's a by-election or when there's shenanigans, keep working together and stepping. But like Jacob Rees-Mogg has come out as saying apparently a few hours ago, if I noted it down correctly. Right. So that's my vision. But Nigel and Rupert can't be in the same room. Rupert won't forgive Nigel. Christianity is not in the heart of these individuals. And where's Kemi? Again, she's an out-and-out atheist. So you do see what I'm trying to say, don't you? It's really simple. The three of them should sit down and publicly make it aware that they are working together whilst being three separate entities. They are doing everything within their power to understand the mission and tell the backbone of this nation that they have understood the mission. We get it. It's now about blocking the unholy alliance, and we are going to work together to do that. But Nigel won't work with Rupert. Rupert won't work with Nigel. Kemi would never do that. She just never would do that. So it's a complete mess. So I say, Rupert, go for it, and you better win. You better win, because if it comes for your audience, Liam, we must tell them like this. The vast majority of people are registered to vote who know a little bit about voting. The people that aren't, don't. So it goes like this. Andy Burnham could return, if you do the math on constituency voting over the last 100 years, Andy Burnham could return 25,000 votes, right? He could potentially do that. So if Kemi's soldier returns 9,000, if Rupert's soldier, what's her face, Rebecca, returns 9,000, and if Reform soldier, is it Andy? I forget his name.
No, can't remember that.
Forget his name. Right, 9,000 votes. Again, this plumber, he's about my age. He's a local lad. Rebecca, she's brand new. 9,000 votes, and you've got no public profile whatsoever. That's incredible. But if the Conservative, if Kemi's soldier if Rupert Soldier and if Nigel Soldier, if they all got 9,000 votes, i.e. they accumulated 27,000 votes, which again would be all very respectable, and Andy Burnham wins with, again, 25,000 votes, Labour heartland, a resurgent Labour, people have short memories, just like with the Tories as well, then I will be there going, if all three parties acted in unison, then this wouldn't have happened. We'd have blocked Burnham, and not just blocked him, but blocked him from even being within a realm, a boundaries chance of becoming our new Prime Minister.
But Nick, you see, you're talking so much sense there. I think every viewer who's watching that now would say we utterly and totally agree. But I just don't think it's going to happen. How sort of bitter, as it were, are you that you're not getting that kind of support and everything else, and that what's the word I'm looking for? Attention. Because you've got a message, it's very strong. How are you feeling about all of that?
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's absolutely seismic within me. It's so blessed and it's so glorious. We've worked so hard, me and the team. We've got a very large security team. We've got a very large, large and proficient security media team. So blessed. We've got our chairman's great. We've got good people work. We've got a very streamlined operation, which is why we call it the bunker. It's also streamlined. We've stripped out what doesn't need to be there. We came out with all of our policies first in the 72-page manifesto. We came out with the 6 missions first, way before Advance, way before Restore. The first person I ever heard to talk about fighting for the soul of this nation was from me at street level. My rhetoric, bringing Christianity back into the heart of government, quoting Bible verses at street level. The rhetoric is a huge part of it, Liam. And then you hear the pundits using the exact same words and the exact same phrases as well. And I just, it's so seismic because it's the same with Turning Point, which I still have the honor of serving as COO, and my videos from over half a decade ago now, which are still going viral. We are setting the trend. And I say we, me, the team, the people I've got around me, the ideas we come up with, the idea to go to Calais, the idea to film the way that we filmed, to confront the traffickers the way we did in the back streets, in the farms and in the fields at 3 o'clock in the morning, where we didn't know who was carrying what. But again, the precision that we execute with, the tactics that we deploy, the precautions and the safety that we take on board, the 24 hours a day, the endless conversations, the chit chat, the networking, the hundreds of millions of views. Whitechapel, October, Liam.
Yes.
Whitechapel, round 2 in January. It was something like, if you go on your Twitter feed and you look at like recent or whatever that button is trending, I forget the stats now because obviously it was October, and then again I think it was in Jan or Feb, it was doing the rounds. It was like 330 million hits, which you and I both know that doesn't, it's a hit, which means that one person, it might have come up on their feed and then whoosh, it's gone. But it was hundreds of millions of people becoming made aware of the fact that Christian nationalism, political Christianity, we use those terms interchangeably, was on the rise, and the Islamic bloc vote didn't like it, and the corrupt, I should say, governors, but they're actually owners of Tower Hamlets. They're commanders in chief of Tower Hamlets. These people had so much power with the Met that we could be absolutely blocked. You know, highlighting two-tier policing, highlighting illegal immigration, two-tier justice, the attack on Christianity and therefore the church and therefore the family and masculinity. All of this trend-setting stuff comes from my vision and the team's work. And it's just, I can't criticize it, because what we're doing is we see that the more money you've got in this pay-to-play system, the more money you've got and the more notoriety you've got, and the fact that you're a member of parliament, this elevates you to Elon Musk, to Donald Trump. It elevates you in untold, unspeakable ways. So if what we're doing right now, without all of that, is working, and we all know who's leading the charge, Liam. You've been very kind and complimentary with your words, but we all know who's setting the tone and the agenda. If we're doing that without being an elected MP, without all the treasures and fruits that Rupert and co have unearthed, if we're doing that without that, can you imagine what we'd be capable of if we, Christian nationalists, myself, start winning seats and we're in that building?
Unbelievable. One of the things I want to say is that you are incredibly brave, because you're going out in areas where you're going to get sort of opposition. You know, everybody's carrying, you know, crosses and everything like that. Do you ever worry about your own safety?
Obviously, what happened to our boss at Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, was so unspeakable, Liam, in terms of the level of wickedness.
It was terrible.
There are ways of dying, and to be publicly executed like that as well. No, I don't worry. No, I don't worry. No, I welcome it. I welcome it. I absolutely welcome it. I've chosen my ticket. I've chosen my path. I looked up the timetable. I waited for the train. I stood on the platform. I got on the train, and that's it. It's a one-way ticket. I really, really don't care. Like so many good people who finally realize the power of faith and the power of God, and there's no going back once you do that. You know, I don't know your personal stance on religion, but I know that you've got a very large audience, and there'll be Christians. We use the word practicing Christians, and there's another word called devout, but that's not a good word, because if I had a pound for every time someone said they were a devout Christian, practicing is fine. And practicing Christian means that you're in church, you're in mass, and you have the sacraments available to you, and you know, that's my armor. Being in mass, being in mass, the sacraments, and prayer time, Liam. That's my armor, and I know this is all in God's hand. You know, we're taught as Christians to offer it up. Anxiety, worry, fear. It's very sweet of you to ask, but no. And or if it happens, then you know, I'm either in a state of grace or I'm in a state of sin. That's immortal sin. That's it. That's, you know, and I can control that. And I just got to give a shout out to my security team as well, and the advisors. I have a specific team of advisors around me as well. I just got to give a massive shout out to them, because their job is to protect me, right? Both online and offline. So it's an enormous team effort that's keeping me at street level approximately 3 times a month. So it kind of works out to once a week, but just under. And again, this Saturday, Trafalgar Square will be marching. This one's very Christian. The weekend after that, it's political. That's in Blackpool. That's your mass deportations. This Thursday, I'm in the field with Turning Point, where we put the gazebo up, and we're outside a university.
Oh, brilliant!
All sorts of shenanigans come from that, and I can't do that without my teams, plural. There are lots of them. So thanks.
Very important at this point, because I think we've only got about 10 minutes left. Very important at this point that we know, you know, if people want to sign up for UKIP, and also now you have your own YouTube channel, don't you? So if people want to follow you, where do they go for all of that?
Absolutely. So subscribe to the YouTube channel is obviously, you know, fantastic. You know, that's at Nick Tenconi. Facebook, Nick Tenconi. TikTok, Nick Tenconi. Instagram, I'm pretty sure it's Nick Tenconi. My middle name, Marcel, is sometimes used, but you get the idea. So across all 5 platforms, guys, go and subscribe or click the follow button. That's very kind of you, Liam. Thank you. Obviously, that's important. Pushing our message out through the mechanism of social media. It's like 101, right? But also, I got to encourage people to go to ukip.org and sign up and become a member, because once you become a member of UKIP, you're in the ecosystem. So you're getting the mail shots, you're getting the updates, you're getting you're hearing from me. You know, you're understanding more about the direction of travel. You can stand to become a member of the council. You can stand to become a candidate. Once you're a member, you get access to all these different things, such as is the dynamic of being a political party. And you can be, you'll hear different reports about whether you can be a member of multiple different parties or not. It's just, there's no law which says you can't be. If a party says you can't be, how are they going to stop that, and how are they going to find out? So you can be a member of multiple parties. I mean, typically people don't do that, but the reality is that the reform, restore these people and these entities, their success comes from membership, because you can't stand to be a candidate if you're not a member. So the membership becomes your talent pool, and you're also funding the party. Leaflets and train fares and fuel cost an awful lot of money. So I cannot emphasize enough, if you want your country back, you've got to be involved in party politics. And being involved in party politics means being a member of a political party. So if you like what you've heard tonight, or if you go check out my social media, guys, and you think, do you know what, I want to back that horse, get onto ukip.org and become a member, and make that decision, which we're so blessed. So many people have done that in the last year or two, Liam, since I was in an actual, a position of leadership. So many people have done that, and it's literally what wins I'll say this: it's literally what wins a general election. If you have no members and no funding, your party is not going to win a general election. But if you have lots of members and lots of candidates, then you've got a chance at winning a general election.
So how tenacious are you? You come across as an incredibly committed man. Will there be a point that in, I don't know, a year's time, 2 years' time, you think, I just can't commit my soul, my energy to this any longer? Do you ever have doubts, at night and think, I don't know if I can do this any longer?
Yeah, after this interview, Liam, I'm killing the whole thing. I'm joking. I'm joking. So first, I mean, you're such a good interviewer, Liam. I love chatting with you because it's no messing around, and it's the right questions, and it's personable, which is what's missing. So first up, is my spirit going to break? No, it won't, because in this life, I don't know anything about you. I don't know if you're married, have kids, whatever. In this life, your metal gets tested, and only everyone's got an Achilles heel. Everyone's got their weakness, their breaking point, whatever. Everyone in this life, regardless of age, has their metal tested. I am where I am at in life, and my metal has been tested. No one else can say this. They can say it if they like, and it might be accurate, but they can't say it like I can't say it about you. My metal has been tested, and it hasn't been found wanting. But thanks be to God, but what it has done, it has reminded me, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Okay. Yes. And also you have various obstacles to overcome. And I have spent so very long in my adult life trying to identify the chinks in the armor, the Achilles heel, the you're only as strong as your weakest link. Those weakest links, my medal's been tested. It hasn't been found wanting. It turns out I am a fighter. It turns out I do want the fight. And obviously, as I said to you before, we use the word practicing rather than devout. I'm a practicing Christian who is, I hear this all the time. What do you do for hobbies? What do you do for downtime? I can tell you now, Liam, I'd be very transparent with your audience. Eating, prayer time, mass time, and gym time. That's it. That's it. Yeah. There's nothing else. I live, breathe, eat, sleep. I live as though it was a prison. That's how that's how I live my life, and thanks be to God, and I'm happy with that. So, fantastic question. Will my spirit break? Obviously, my mortal opinion is no, but I don't know what God has in store for me. But so far, so good. And again, that's because of the people I've got around me. And in terms of the second piece, just give it up and let it go, because I think you've been so kind. You've recognized that we're working so hard. And every time we move forward, there's something else which comes along, which goes, actually, you will stop right there. And you kind of start to think, is it state-based as well sometimes, which is a slightly different conversation. And the answer is, no, I'm fully committed, right or wrong, good or bad. And I will just say this. I love Rupert. I love Ben. I love Nigel. They're different men. and Nigel clearly doesn't share our ideology, which is conservatism or like right-wing politics, or Christian nationalism, but they are all 20 to 25 years my senior, and this job takes so much from you. In fact, it takes everything from you, and you're basically cancelled forever. So you can't, you can't make any moves after this kind of thing. So I'm committed. I'm in it. And I think, as going back to what I said at the start, Britain needs something fresh. It needs something different. And my personal opinion is that if we don't turn back to God, we simply will not be successful in our mission to deliver justice to Britain. And once we've seen everything play out, whichever party we're talking about, whichever man we're talking about, I will be there waiting to take over. And we're going to keep going in the meantime. I hope that makes some sense, Liam.
It does. It does. Now, we've only got a minute left. What I would say, Nick, is hold something for yourself. You're a man who is committed to your 150%, with your heart, your soul, your faith, and this, that, and the other. But you want to leave 5% for yourself, whether it's a favorite TV program or something that kind of gets you through, because it cannot be easy to be in your position. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. So huge admiration, folks. Anybody out there watching, do me the favor. Go and have a look at UKIP, sign up to Nick's, all his socials and all that, because the man is, with not a lot of support, got a great team around him, but not a lot of support, is really giving it the best. So well done, Nick.
Thank you. It's really, really kind of you to say that. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you for having me on, and thank you for your kind words as well.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing you on one of the next marches and all that. And it's such a, for anybody who doesn't know, literally the time the clock is ticking away from me here. Anybody who doesn't know, it's such a charismatic sight to see Nick walk down the street with the flags and the crosses and all that. So good luck to him.